to help examine the reasons for vote buying and implications for the new democracy. I'm joined via phone by Adeni Yukunu, a public affairs analyst. Adeni Yukunu, hello, good to have you on board.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Well, we're looking at the monetization of election in Nigeria. What exactly is the cause? Let's start from there. Why do we have this going on?
Well, I think that we're going to see money politics for many years to come, because you cannot single-handedly look at politics to talk about why there is so much monetization of the electoral process without looking at the society itself. We're talking about Nigeria, where people live on less than $1 a day, and let us even increase it to $1 or $2 a day. So that means 1,000 naira for 3 square meals. We have not talked about other utilities. It therefore means that the average person in the country is living just down under the poverty line. And that itself will most definitely affect other areas of their lives going into the election. That is one part. Secondly is the fact that a lot of Nigerians, apart from being poor physically, are also mentally bereft of the dignity of self and the cogent understanding that should prevent them from diving into where money is at the expense of their future. That is two. Then thirdly, the leadership of the country do not quite understand that we have come to a point where we have to reorder all of our strategies of engaging with the citizens so that we can ameliorate the issues or incidences of poverty. So I think that there's a whole lot we must still do for us to fight that. Education is another thing. You can imagine if a number of people who are in universities and other higher institutions in the country are in school. Don't forget that most of them will form the crop of supporters leading to major elections. If they're in school, that means a percentile of them are not also going to be available as tools in the hands of politicians who are devious and desperate. So the structures in society, the structures are already affected, and that has become a spillover onto other areas, one of which, as you rightly put it, is election and the monetization politics.
All right, you mentioned three things. First, you talked about the fact that a lot of Nigerians live below the poverty line, and you also talked about our values, and you mentioned leadership issues. Let's take you on the first one, talking about the fact that a lot of Nigerians are living below the poverty line. How can we turn this around? Do we have the resources to turn things around in this country?
Oh, most definitely. We have a lot of resources in the country. For instance, if I took you back to the years that the current PDP candidate is in power, when he fell out with former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Obasanjo said, and I quote, that the money Atiku has stolen is enough to feed 300 million Nigerians. End quote. If I left that now and I go to what an accountant general of the Federation stole, 80 billion naira too. If I left there, I go to where the NDDC leadership happens to be, where they stole over 47 billion. That is 4 or 3. If I go to another one and I come to the money stolen, according to the EFCC, by, of course, the accountant general of the River State government, that is another one. That should be in excess of 300 or 400 billion that cannot be accounted for. And on top of that, the former governor of Zamfara State has been arrested because he colluded with the former accountant, the suspended accountant general of the Federation. If these monies that people have stolen were properly channeled in the form of welfare, Nigeria is the only country that told a lie about providing welfare for people during pandemic. And up until this time, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Sadia Farouk, has not been able to give names and house addresses. And Emefiele, that is desirous of becoming president, has not been able to provide that. So if we look at the monies that have been stolen, these monies are well enough to take care of the needs of Nigerians, to increase workers' salaries, to pay lecturers so that they can get back to school, and make our roads such that we can drive on. So if indeed the structures of society in terms of fiscal finance is prudent, then at the same time it is in recognition of new frontiers such that we can create jobs. Now we're talking about some things that are very evolutionary. University education is important, but if we talk about the tech industry, we have jobs that people could only be trained for 6 months per
All right, let me
year.
come in here. Let's get back to the conversation talking about monetization of election. What can be done to address the situation? I mean, is the EFCC doing enough? What can be done to address the situation?
Okay, the EFCC is a toothless mongrel, not a bulldog, because a bulldog has the canines in place. So the EFCC is a toothless mongrel. Mongrel is found in this part of the world more in numbers. And the EFCC is such as I've described because it seems as if when some people commit financial crimes, the EFCC looks the other way. Now, we have 400 people that were helping Boko Haram to launder money. They've not been arrested. So in the first place, the EFCC is out of this. It is also sad that INEC, that should be an unbiased umpire, has to shift the date for primaries and all of that by 6 days because of the APC. So I think that we're in limbo now. It is Nigerians that will take the battle of changing money politics into their hands and stand together as one against those who buy people over when the election cycle is here. So I don't have trust in the EFCC. I also do not trust because the EFCC doesn't respect procedures. The same EFCC that went to Sokosha's house without an arrest warrant. If somebody violates the condition of his or her bail, you get a new court order that validates your arrest. So the EFCC
All right, thank you so much.
Toothless. So talking about
thank you, Adini Yukono. This is a good place to anchor. Thank you so much for your thoughts. We do appreciate every one of them.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right.